It's Jahlon with the Paradox Gaming Network, and today we are diving back into Archeage Unchained. You'll see on the screen that 30 September is the release date, so that puts us under a little bit of a time crunch. A lot of people have been asking me why I don't just generate these videos faster, and I kind of laughed. I am making these videos as fast as I can, but you guys deserve a certain minimum level of quality. So what you're going to be getting is you're going to be getting the low-hanging fruit. You're going to be getting the very best answer I can generate. Now, I am a content creator across multiple platforms, and I use an education motif. So I want you to think of the videos here on YouTube as like a formal lecture series, because this is a one-way conversation. The only time I get to interact with you guys on YouTube is through the comments. If you guys need stuff faster, I also stream on Twitch. And you can jump in, you can just jump in and get one question answered, and that's more of a casual classroom environment. With that said, I do want to talk today about housing, and I'm going to give you both objective information and some subjective opinions. I've been asked for some stuff, and I have a little bit of advice to give, having played Archeage for 5 years now. There are bits and pieces I want you guys to know. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about farms. And that 8x8 farm, it is done in Halsey after level 30. Now, nothing has changed as far as I'm aware. So this video that I have, and it's linked in the description below, I showed this once before, this is still current. The 16x16 farm, this is done after level 50. I made sure to point those levels out. That was a talking point. And there is one change from this video, and that is in the video I talk about a cargo bottleneck, how you're not going to be able to necessarily do your quest right away. That cargo bottleneck only existed because of the old trade system. Now the trade system is the next video I want to talk about, but that's irrelevant to you getting your property. So the truth is, subjectively on these two pieces of property, the 8x8 farm is easily doable. If you have 5 days and you're treating the game with any level of seriousness, there is no reason for this to not be done. Now the 16x16 farm, it's going to take a little bit more effort. It's going to be a little bit more challenging. It's not a roadblock. It's really just a challenge to overcome. Now a big question I've been asked about these two videos is why not rework these two videos before Archeage Unchained? And the answer to that is simply time. I have a character who could reasonably do the 8x8 quest in just a couple of hours of leveling and getting prepared, but I can focus my time and my effort elsewhere. Also, these two videos are marked for rework when we get to 6.0 to not only reflect an improvement in the production quality that I can provide you guys, but also just in case anything else changes in 6.0. Very limited amount of time between now and the 30th of September. I don't want to remake two videos to just have to remake them again. With that said, I am going to talk about a recommendation, and I've been asked what I would do with Archeage and like kind of like what I'm going to do. And my recommendation is that take everything with a grain of salt. Even the stuff that I'm saying, take with a grain of salt, because we don't know what we don't know. My recommendation would be you get a thatched farmhouse and a 16x16 cottage and your 16x16 farm, and then analyze your situation, your play style. I am going to have a couple of guild suggestions later in the video, because I think that a group of people working together can produce better results. It is an MMORPG after all, so if a guild works together, you're probably gonna benefit. Now the big thing on prices, you see on the screen, I'm showing some stuff from the Gilda shop, thatched farmhouses, and the 16x16s. But remember, these may be different. You may have confirmed the prices with 6.0 Korea, but these might change. Probably not going to, but if your strategy revolves around getting 300 Gilda stars for that thatched farmhouse, you don't want to be taken by surprise when you click in there and it's 400 or 375. Every Gilda star is going to count. Now, on that note, it is 300 Gilda stars for the thatched farmhouse now. Players that are coming back, all of you returning players, you're used to this being 50. It is now 300. It radically changes that early land rush. We have sat down, we have thought about this, we've talked it through. 300 is probably doable. I'm on the skeptical side of it. People have convinced me that 300 is doable, but I'm going to say don't count on legacy speed. The number of Gilda stars you can get per day on legacy is different than the number you're going to get on Unchained. We don't know what's going to be available, and we don't know what's in those other paths. Now, with that said, I keep getting this discussion with people. People keep telling me, well, nobody's going to use land. What do you mean nobody is using land? Everybody will be using Hiram gear, is what people are telling me. And I stop and I'm like, okay, everyone's going to be using Hiram gear. Well, that's not true anyway. But even if it were true, you have food, you have potions, keys, Luna gems, cars, tanks, ship components. The truth is, all of that stuff, all of these things take stuff. And that stuff has to come from somewhere. And, you know, even if we cross off the two that don't necessarily need land, you can do keys and you can do ship components without owning any land. The rest, sure, you can buy everything off the auction house, but we've talked about economics many times in Archeage 101 and where's your price pointing at and what's your costs. Even if we take all that away and everybody lives off the wild, it's really not realistic to believe Aranor gear is going to come into creation from just the wild. Now, here's the big one that I want to show people. Players take so many things for granted. Everything takes stuff. It's just we're used to playing on legacy servers, so we've got rose-colored lenses. We're looking through a filtered view, and we're like, oh, well, you can pretty much make everything from the auction house. That's because the auction houses are saturated. Let's just take one item. I don't want to jump into a big economics discussion, but let's take one item. We're going to take a Luna gem. Just, you know, a splendid wave Luna gem. And you'll see one of those items is going to be a sturdy ingot. Now, this is where I've talked about the production system. So you need 10 sturdy ingots. And you come down here, and to make one sturdy ingot, you need an opaque polish. And you take that opaque polish, and you look at it, and you know you need 10 to make the 10 sturdy ingots. And that means you need 200 azalea and 200 narcissa. Now, that seems like an awful lot of stuff if land doesn't mean anything. So I'm going to tell you right now, this concept that nobody's going to be using land, the stuff has to come from somewhere. Now, I've also heard that proficiencies are dead. And for a minute there, I think I might have been inadvertently talking about proficiencies being dead. This has to do with completion certificates. Let me walk that statement back a little bit in case anybody believes I was saying proficiencies were dead. To make that one item we talked about, you're going to need a crafter for the final product, a handicrafter with a certain minimum level of handicrafts. You're going to need opaque polish from an alchemist. You're going to need a miner to go get the metals. You're going to need a gatherer to go get the flowers. And it's probably suggested that you have a metal worker for the ingots because you're going to need so many ingots to gem out just one piece that you're going to be saving labor per. So I don't really believe this whole proficiencies is dead thing. I think actually the opposite. No one's going to have the proficiencies to make any of this stuff. So yeah, great. We're all going to get to Hiram gear before day 5, but 70,000 labor has to be invested in handicrafts, and you still have to get the stuff there. Now, sure, yes, I'm acknowledging people's argument. Well, I'm just going to do T1 plus gems. Sure, do T1 plus gems. It is cheaper, fine, but you're not going to be competitive at the highest levels because a lot of those, especially the weapon gems, huge difference between T1 plus 5s and T3s. So here's the thing. Where does stuff come from? For any of my new players, any of my returning players that don't necessarily remember Archeage, everything can now be found in the wild. Everything. In very limited quantities. Except stone and ore. Stone is statically in the world on respawn. My returning players, you don't know this. There is no more iron ingot mining spots. There are now stone brick mining spots. They flip-flopped it. So a lot more stone available. Now, ores are the RNG. For those of you that are coming back, we're used to get a Fortuna and you would get stone if you were lucky or something better. Now you get iron ore, you get the other ores on the Fortuna, not on the base hit. Now, everything else replenishes in time. And I want to tell my other game players, specifically anybody coming from a game like Final Fantasy or WoW, where your nodes are set and you just basically go between 4 nodes. Doesn't work like that with everything except stone. You find a tree out in the wild, you harvest that tree, it's going to take several hours for that tree to respawn. You find one mint plant, you harvest that mint, several hours before it respawns. Stone blocks, about a couple of minutes. Now, where stuff comes from, as you guys heard, this drives the need for land. Because from a production point of view, you need reliable product delivery. It's all about supply and demand, and the demand will far outweigh the wild supply. There is no way that we can produce everything we need for even one player with what's available in the wild. So that brings the question of, where do you want land? People keep asking me, where do I want land? And like everything in Archeage, like everything in every MMO, you can ask one question, but you have to get asked a question as well. And that's, what do you want to do with it? Now, I've heard you guys, I've absolutely 100% heard you guys. You want a trade video because you want to talk about stuff like larders. And we'll talk about that in the trade video. You want to talk about trade packs, and we'll talk about that in the trade video. Now, I'm hesitant to do this, but you guys deserve my best effort, and some of you want to get going right now. I have a video on the initial cargo system, not the most recent one, the original cargo system. Now, the good part about the video is that it was selected by Tryon. I won an Archeum Founders Pack because of it. The bad news is that it's like 2 years old, and it represents a much lower version of my production quality. So I'm going to put the link in the description below. If you watch it to understand cargo, if you're an old player who left before the cargo system, if you left before about June 2017 and you have no idea what people are talking about with cargo, this video is there. Please have mercy. With that said, if you're going to be using your land to grow stuff, make sure you check your climate. I'm going to say this twice because a lot of people are going to miss it the first time. You can also use your land for island houses for your teleports. So these are the maps of the mainland. I didn't include maps everywhere. We're going to talk about that with the trade pack stuff. But you really need to jump into Archeage now or ask me questions if you're coming back. If you're returning from, a long time ago, some of these zones you probably don't recognize, like Rakala, Sunbite, Aryan Rock, Arbor Cradle, Animar. You probably don't recognize those zone names. So if they're new to you, let's talk. But I want to remind people of this. Check your climate. When you bring up any individual zone map, down here in the corner, you see a climate that is not just flavor. It actually has a mechanic. You take this particular tree, its climate is arid. So once you have the tree grown, its cycle time for its harvest is actually going to be faster in a arid climate. It works like this for most crops. Some crops have no favored climate. You really want to try to figure out what market you're going to corner. The most common spread is if you're in a temperate zone, the majority of things are temperate, and then there's outliers for arid and tropical. Now I'm going to say this one more time. Don't forget the island houses. People that are moving stuff by ship, don't forget that people can teleport to an island if they have a house there or they have a teleport there because somebody has shared a port there. This gets really dicey if somebody puts a fellowship on an island and then lights the fire, because that means always consider an island with a fellowship on it a place that can be teleported, because anybody who was fortunate enough to get the bookmark while the fire was lit can always teleport out. It means they can get ahead of you when you're by ship. We'll talk about that more if you guys have questions. I want to now segue into that guild advice, and I like giving guild advice, especially. I like the logistics side of things. I like being in charge of like production, alignment, resources. That's what I did in the real world for many years. It's really what makes me happy. I'm also former military and a former teacher, so the acronym TEAM. Together, everyone accomplishes more. I know it sounds cheesy, but that doesn't make it any less true. If you're a guild that's formed before launch, ask yourself this question. Does your guild really need 5 APOC houses, or would it make more sense to have 1 APOC house, 1 armorer's house, put them under a guild officer, put them under the guild leader, put them under somebody, and then let everybody else use their property, their holdings to generate that stuff. Now, way back when on Sulfura and on Conviction, I had public houses of every variety available to people just as a thank you to being a hero. And I didn't even think about having to be hero again to get hero gems with the new hero system. That's just my 2 cents. That's how I would do it. Your guild leaders, your guild officers, you do it any way you want. The other thing I want to tell people is don't take current auction house prices for granted. This is a big one. People keep telling me, oh, well, I'm not worried about stone because stone is going to be cheap. Again, you're using current models. You're using this current model with Patron, and because you buy Patron in one region, you have Patron automatically in both. So I'm a North American player. All of my mains are on Kadam. Well, my main and my main alts. But I also have characters on the European servers. Now, I've talked about this in the Making Gold and Making Gold Part 2 videos. I was generating like 20,000 gold a month across all of my accounts. And there's this trick with Archeage accounts that the more of them you have, you multiply how much gold you make. It's not a linear curve. It's like ebbs and flows depending on how many accounts you have. This generates a lot of cross-region alts because it's the easy way to pay for one, if not both, of your Apex you need for Patron. One account generates 86,400 disposable labor. And what I mean by disposable labor is it's labor not directly going to the benefit of your main. That means at the current prices, give or take, you only have to be generating 4.6 silver per labor to pay for your account. And you can easily do that. And you're never paying for Patron and you're never drawing away from your main character's wallet. Now, that's probably going to change after 6.0 for you legacy servers. A lot of the pay to win is going to go away, I imagine. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have the magic 8-ball. Now, also remember, labor generates vocation. Accounts generate loyalty tokens. So there's a lot of reasons to cross-region alt. But as we go into the new build, the Unchained business model, there's no Apex. So there's no need for Apex because everybody's Patron. The driving factor for cross-region alts drops. I'm not pressed against the wall trying to generate that gold for my 2 Apex every month. I mean, sure, you can still do cross-region deals, and there's going to be people that will do that, but it's going to be a lot fewer people who do that. It's just not beneficial. Let me tell you, generating gold and trading gold with somebody in another region is doable, but it is just a pain to set up. Now, with that said, I am hoping that Gamigo has something better than the current model for servers. As you see, here's the North American servers. And instead of having this 2 labor pools thing, I would just like to see them change it where they put the other 2 servers on the server select screen and then throw a column in there that says it's either an NA or an EU server. And I'd like both your NA and your EU accounts to be sharing one labor pool. I just think that would be neater. That'd be cleaner. Everything would be there. Now, a lot of times in YouTube videos, you'll see your content creator asks for likes or asks for subs. I'm not going to ask you for any of that. I'm going to ask you for your feedback. I want to know what you think about an idea like this. Maybe not necessarily this idea, but do you want to see the dual labor pools, the dual loyalty pools go away? For Legacy, definitely for Unchained, for both, for neither. What's your opinion? The easy way to give me the feedback is I've put a pinned comment down below. I don't like to pin my own comments, but this time I've done that. If you want to go the extra mile for me, I've also included a link to the tweet for this video. And just if you have Twitter, pop over to that link and just give me your feedback. You may hate it, you may love it. Maybe we can get Crolin's attention and he says, yeah, I think Jay's onto something here. I'm going to talk about one more thing. I want people to be thinking about this and providing feedback to Gamigo, and that is the prepay controversy. I think 5 weeks may be too long. See, when we first started Archeage, we had no prepay ability. This was a giant pain in the ass, to be completely honest. You're on vacation, and you got to have a laptop with you. You're on vacation, and you have to have a friend logging into your account. What we currently have is 5 weeks. But you can't pay your taxes. You can't renew this patron, or you can't renew your tax payments unless you re-up your patron. So every 5 weeks at the latest, you have to become a patron again. Now you become a patron again, you pay week. pay out for 5 weeks. It's called the 5-week trick, the 5-week cycle trick. Lowers the number of months out of the year you have to have patron. The problem is that now we have a scenario of every month you log in for a couple of days, you burn all the labor that you have on tax certs, and then you extend your taxes, and your land will never get destroyed. And the problem with that is what do you do with somebody who has this much property? They're just taking up a vast chunk. And that guy was me, and this only represented a fraction of the property I owned because I had public property in every zone. So when I talked about being able to fill a bunch of Azalea and Narcissa orders, this is how I did it because I had this much property. All right, guys, with that said, that is today's episode. That's today's lecture. I want to let you know that Archeage 101, the 2019 edition, is up. And this weekend, my goal is to start building Archeage Unchained 101. Now, it's going to be an ugly baby. I did not have time to learn HTML this summer. That was my goal. I wanted to learn a little bit of HTML, start cleaning up my stuff. I was sick all summer, so I'm going to be honest. Honesty, you're getting a Wix webpage. I do want to give a shout out to Aird. He is taking time out of his content creator schedule. He's coming back to Archeage Unchained. He's knocking the rust off. He's getting familiarized with it. But he's also taking the time to help his fellow creator. He's helping me get my websites set up. He's got the patience of a saint because I'm HTML1. I'm old school. Anyway, guys, I'm going to cut this here. I'm going to get to work on the next video. You guys are going to see me putting these videos out. I am streaming again. So if you have a quick question, drop in. I stream Monday nights, Wednesday mornings, and Friday afternoons. You can find a link to my Twitch in the description below. And then by the time you've seen this, I will have done the live stream recap video for the second live stream, or you'll be waiting for me to do the live stream recap for the third week. So you're going to be seeing a lot of Archeage coming out from me. Make sure that if you have any questions at all, you get in touch with me. That's it, guys. You take care, and I will see you next time. What are you still doing here? Nobody ever stays this long. This is the end screen. Well, since you're here, there's a couple other videos I think you should check out. And all those names, those are my patrons over at Patreon. I couldn't do this without them. So, big thanks to them for all their support.